In a tense courtroom, two white police officers stood confidently before the judge, certain their version of events would hold. They'd arrested a black man, claiming he resisted and acted suspiciously, and the judge seemed ready to rule in their favor. But then the man they dismissed as just another defendant stood up, his voice steady, his gaze unwavering, and declared, "Your Honor, I am a United States attorney." The room froze. What unfolded next would unravel a case built on assumptions, exposing truths no one saw coming. On a humid summer evening in Atlanta, Georgia, Marcus Reynolds walked briskly down Peachtree Street, his phone pressed to his ear. He was wrapping up a call with a colleague about a high-profile case he'd been working on for months. Marcus, a 38-year-old U.S. attorney, had built a reputation for his sharp legal mind and relentless pursuit of justice. His tailored suit and polished shoes reflected his professionalism, but to the two officers patrolling the area, he was just another black man in a city where assumptions often trumped reason. Officers Daniel Harper and Michael Tate, both in their late 20s, noticed Marcus from their squad car. Harper nudged Tate, pointing out Marcus's quick pace and the way he glanced over his shoulder during his call. "Looks nervous," Harper muttered. Tate nodded, his hand already on the radio. They'd been on edge after a string of robberies in the area, and to them, Marcus fit a vague profile. Black, male, moving with purpose. Without much discussion, they decided to pull over. Marcus barely noticed the squad car until its lights flashed behind him. He ended his call, slipping his phone into his pocket, and turned to face the officers. Harper stepped out first, his hand resting casually on his holster. "Evening, sir. Mind telling us where you're headed in such a hurry?" His tone was polite but carried an edge of suspicion. Marcus raised an eyebrow, his years in the courtroom making him keenly aware of the subtext. "I'm heading home," he replied calmly. "Just got off a call with a colleague. Is there a problem?" Tate, now standing beside Harper, chimed in. "You looked like you were trying to avoid something. Mind showing us some ID?" His voice was firmer, less questioning than demanding. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. He'd been through this before. Too many times. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood, he'd learned early how to navigate these encounters. Stay calm, don't escalate, get home alive. He reached for his wallet slowly and handed over his driver's license. "Here you go," he said, his tone even. Harper glanced at the ID, then back at Marcus. "You live around here?" he asked, though the address on the license clearly showed a nearby upscale neighborhood. Marcus nodded. "Yes, about a mile from here." The officers exchanged a look. Tate stepped closer, his flashlight scanning Marcus's face. "Mind if we pat you down?" "Just routine." Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded again, raising his arms. He knew better than to argue on the street. The pat-down revealed nothing. No weapons, no contraband, just a phone, wallet, and keys. Yet the officers didn't seem satisfied. "You were moving pretty fast," Harper said, his tone accusatory now. "Like you didn't want to be seen. You sure you're not up to something?" Marcus's patience was wearing thin, but he kept his voice steady. "I'm a lawyer. I was on a work call. I'm just trying to get home." Tate smirked. "Lawyer, huh? That's what they all say." Before Marcus could respond, Harper grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. "You're acting resistant. We're taking you in." Marcus's heart raced, but he didn't struggle. "Resistant? I've complied with everything you've asked. What's the charge?" His voice was firm, lawyerly, but the officers weren't listening. They cuffed him, read him his rights, and shoved him into the squad car. The charge: resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. To Marcus it was clear, they'd profiled him, and now they were doubling down to justify it. At the station, Marcus sat in a holding cell, his suit wrinkled, his mind racing. He could have called a colleague or his supervisor, but he chose to wait. He wanted to see how this would play out, to experience the system from the other side. He'd prosecuted cases involving police misconduct before, but this was different. This was personal. The next morning, Marcus was brought before Judge Evelyn Carter, a veteran of the bench known for her no-nonsense approach. The courtroom was sparsely filled, mostly court staff, a few reporters, and the two officers, who sat confidently in the front row. Harper and Tate had submitted a report claiming Marcus had been evasive and combative, refusing to comply with their orders. Their story painted him as a threat, someone who'd lunged at them when they tried to question him. The prosecutor, a young assistant DA named Sarah Jennings, presented the officer's account as fact. "Your Honor," she began, the defendant, Marcus Reynolds, was observed acting suspiciously on Peachtree Street. When approached by officers Harper and Tate, he refused to provide clear answers and became physically resistant, necessitating his arrest. "We ask that bail be set at $5,000. Judge Carter, her expression unreadable, flipped through the report. She'd seen cases like this before. Routine arrests, conflicting stories, officers' word against a defendant's. In her experience, police accounts often held more weight, especially when the defendant had no prior record to contradict them. Marcus, standing in the defendant's box, looked unassuming but composed, his suit still carrying an air of authority despite the night in lockup. "Mr. Reynolds," Judge Carter said, peering over her glasses, "do you have anything to say before I rule on bail?" Marcus stood, his hands clasped in front of him. The room was quiet, the officer's eyes fixed on him, expecting a plea or an apology. Instead, Marcus's voice cut through the silence with calm precision. "Your Honor, I am a United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. I was not resisting or acting disorderly. I complied fully with the officer's requests, yet I was arrested without cause. I request that the charges be dismissed, and I'm prepared to provide evidence to support my account." The courtroom stirred. Harper and Tate exchanged uneasy glances. Jennings, caught off guard, fumbled with her notes. Judge Carter leaned forward, her brow furrowing. "A U.S. attorney," she repeated, her tone a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "Can you substantiate that claim?" Marcus nodded. "I can, Your Honor. My office can provide documentation, and I have colleagues who can confirm my identity and whereabouts last night. Additionally, there's likely street camera footage from Peachtree Street that will show I was on a phone call and did not resist." The judge's eyes narrowed. She turned to Jennings. "Counselor, were you aware of this?" Jennings, visibly flustered, shook her head. "No, Your Honor. The defendant's occupation wasn't mentioned in the report." Judge Carter's gaze shifted to the officers, who now sat rigid in their seats. "Officers Harper and Tate, you claimed Mr. Reynolds was combative. Are you standing by that account?" Harper cleared his throat, his confidence waning. "Yes, Your Honor." He was uncooperative and made sudden movements. Marcus didn't flinch. "Your Honor, I respectfully request a review of the officer's body camera footage. It will show I was calm, provided my ID, and allowed the pat-down without objection. Their report is inaccurate." The judge leaned back, her fingers tapping the bench. "Very well. We'll adjourn until the footage and Mr. Reynolds's credentials can be verified. Bail is withheld for now. Court is recessed." The next day, the courtroom was packed. Word had spread about the U.S. Attorney's arrest, and reporters lined the back rows, notebooks in hand. Marcus's supervisor, U.S. Attorney Laura Mitchell, sat in the gallery, her presence a silent show of support. The body camera footage had been retrieved, and Marcus's identity as a U.S. attorney was confirmed. The evidence was damning for the officers. The footage showed Marcus standing calmly, hands visible, as he answered the officers' questions. There was no lunging, no resistance, only Harper's sudden move to cuff him after Tate's smirk and comment about lawyers. The video contradicted their report entirely. Judge Carter, her face stern, addressed the courtroom. "Officers Harper and Tate, your account does not align with the evidence. Mr. Reynolds was compliant, and there was no basis for his arrest. This raises serious questions about your conduct." Jennings, now red-faced, moved to dismiss the charges. "Your Honor, in light of the evidence, the state withdraws the charges against Mr. Reynolds." But Marcus wasn't done. He stood again, his voice measured but firm. "Your Honor, I request that this incident be investigated further. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a violation of my rights based on assumptions about my race. I've prosecuted cases like this, and I know how often they go unchecked. I ask that the court recommend an internal review of the officer's conduct." The room was silent. Judge Carter nodded slowly. "Mr. Reynolds, your request is noted. I'll recommend that the Atlanta Police Department conduct a thorough review of this incident. This court will not tolerate abuse of power." The officers' faces paled. Harper stared at the floor, while Tate shifted uncomfortably. The reporters scribbled furiously, sensing a bigger story. Marcus, his expression unchanged, thanked the judge and stepped down. In the days that followed, the case drew national attention. News outlets ran headlines about the U.S. Attorney's wrongful arrest, sparking debates about racial profiling and police accountability. The Atlanta Police Department launched an investigation into Harper and Tate, suspending them pending the outcome. Marcus, back at his office, continued his work, but the experience left a mark. He began advocating more openly for reforms, using his platform to highlight cases like his own. The officers faced disciplinary hearings, and the department issued a public apology to Marcus. But for him, it wasn't about apologies, it was about change. He met with community leaders, shared his story, and pushed for better training and oversight. His case became a rallying point, a reminder that no one, not even a U.S. attorney, was immune to the biases that plagued the system. Months later, Marcus stood before a community forum, his voice steady as ever. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about the countless others who don't have a title or a platform to fight back. We need a system that judges people by their actions, not their skin." The crowd erupted in applause, but Marcus's focus was already on the next case, the next step toward justice.